I recently made a 75-minute long video covering how every single name in the Harry Potter books were adapted in the Norwegian translation of the series. While I think the full video is worth watching, it is filled with very minor characters that most Harry Potter fans won't necessarily care about, like Willy Withershins or Mrs. Fig's many cats. So I decided to make this best-of video for everyone who just want to get to the characters they know and love. A few names like Harry Potter, Voldemort and Chang are completely unchanged, and some are simply spelled more Norwegian, like Hedwig. But most of the Norwegian names are much more interesting. Hermione Granger is named Hermine Grang in Norwegian. Grang is a traditional but now outdated Norwegian pronunciation of the Anglo-French word grand. There's even a famous hotel in Oslo named Grand Hotel, which a lot of older people especially just call Grang. So Grang brings to mind a sense of upper class and properness, and Hermione is definitely more upper class than both of her friends. Ron Weasley is named Ronny Wiltersen, Wilter meaning to be wild and lively. So the best way to translate Ronny Wiltersen back to English would probably be Ron Wildling. In English, his middle name Bilius was probably given to him to honor his late uncle Bilius, but his Norwegian middle name Colerius probably comes from the uncommonly used word kolerisk, meaning aggressive, impetuous and hot-blooded, which can often be a good description of Ron. His large family consists of Arthur, Molly, Rulle, Kalle, Gulla, Perry, Fred and Frank Wiltersen. Neville Longbottom is Nilus Langballe, which means long ball, but very specifically in the way you would refer to a testicle. Like the Norwegian word for a ball is just ball, but if you say balle, that is talking about a singular testicle, while ballar is the plural for both balls and testicles. Now this could be intended as being short for rumpeballar, ass balls, which is what we call ass cheeks, but divorced from the knowledge that the character's original name is Longbottom. Nobody would ever consider that over just thinking that he has long testicles. Luna Lovegood is Luna Luneskjær. Since people at Hogwarts call Luna Loony, her name in Norwegian needed to be able to be mocked in a similar manner. Hence we have Lulla, which can be mocked as Skrulla, similarly referencing her seemingly crazy personality. Luna means mood, but Lune can also mean like warm and comfy. Skjær can mean loving or loved. Malfoy has been changed to Malfang, which fits well with the snake imagery of Slytherin. The first names of Draco, Lucius, Narcissa and Abraxas are all intact. Tom Marvolo Riddle is of course an anagram of I am Lord Voldemort, but translating this phrase to Jeg Fyrst Voldemort would destroy the anagram. So his name was changed to Tom Dredolo Venstar, which anagrams to Voldemort den Store or Voldemort the Great, which I like much more anyway, even if his name no longer hints at a riddle to be solved. This is probably the most changed name across all the different translations of the books, exactly because that anagram had to change with each language. So we have Tom Elvis Chedusa in France, Tom Gus Marvolo Dolder in Sweden, Romeo G. Detlev Jr. in Denmark, Anton Morvol Hert in Greece, Tom Roll Denham in Hungary, Trevor Delgome in Iceland, and so many more. I'm sure I mispronounced all of these. The fat lady is Den Trinne Damen, with Trinn being a much more polite way of saying fat, more like portly. The Nick in Nesten Hodeløse Nick is spelled like our word for a nod, which is a pretty good pun considering. His full name is also Sir Nicholas de Mimsy Toppington, instead of de Mimsy Porpington. Moaning Myrtle is Stønne Stina, Stønne being the Norwegian word for moaning and groaning, and Stina being a fairly normal Norwegian name that was switched in to have that same alliteration quality to the name as Moaning Myrtle has. Sirius Black's last name is Svart, which is just the Norwegian word for black, but with an extra A. Two A's in a row usually indicates an Å in Norwegian, especially when interacting with systems or people who are unfamiliar with the special letter. Like when the famous footballer Haaland changed his name to Haaland. Do that conversion with Svart and you get Svårt, which is Swedish for difficult. Sirius Black did have a very difficult life after all, and you are meant to think he's a scary bad man at first, so the double meaning of black and difficult could possibly have been intentional. Kingsley Shacklebolt is Nestor Bindelbolt, in reference to the wise king Nestor from Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. His last name means binding bolt, which means pretty much the same as Shacklebolt. McGonagall is changed to McSnurp. To be snurpete is to crumple your face into a snarky, unhappy expression, so this is very fitting for Minerva. Alastor Moody is Alastor Bistar, which means dreadful and threatening. His nickname, Mad-Eye, is just a direct translation to Galøya. While the name Quirrell may possibly be some sort of mix between quarrel and squirrel, Krangle is a play on krangle, which means to argue or quarrel. Dobby is named Noldus, which is a synonym for idiot, and I have no idea what he did to deserve that. Then we have Albus Dumbledore as Albus Humlesnurr. Humle meaning bumblebee and snurr meaning spin. So basically, bumblebee whirl. Humle can also mean hops, so that could be an additional reason why he's so whirly. Hagrid's name is Gygrid. Gygar are female giants in Norse mythology, and rid is to ride. So since the name Hagrid comes from being hag-ridden, it's actually even more fitting that Gygrid is named after what his father did to help conceive him. Madame Hooch is named Hop, Hop being the Norwegian word for jump, as in jumping on her broom. It could possibly also be a reference to hops in beer, going with the Hooch team, but as mentioned, hops is humla in Norwegian, so I'm not sure. Gilderoy Lockhart is Gyldenpris Gullmedal, which means Golden Prince Gold Medal, although it's spelled differently. Nymphadora Tonks is Dult, which is like a friendly little shove or poke, often by elbowing someone's arm. Aunt Petunia is still Petunia, but the Norwegian name for the Dursley family is Dumling, which sounds very similar to the word dumming, a very tame kindergarten insult which means stupid. Uncle Vernon is Victor, Marjorie is Muggen, and Dudley is Dudleif, which isn't really a real name, but follows an old naming convention from the Middle Ages, which a lot of people now find silly, which involves sticking Leif at the end of another name, the Leif part specifically meaning descendant. So technically, his full name means Dud descendant stupid person. James Potter is renamed Jakob, which is the Norwegian version of James. Norwegian versions of names is a practice most commonly associated with British monarchs, with most kings and queens having names that were more common to Norwegians, like all King Henrys being renamed Henrik. This was also a common practice a lot of other places in the world, with Queen Elizabeth, for instance, being named Isabel in Mexico. With the latest British monarch, King Charles, we seem to have moved away from this tradition, probably because of how connected the world has become through the internet ever since the last monarch was crowned. Snape is Slur, Slu being the Norwegian word for cunning, and Lur meaning clever. His father is still named Tobias, and his mother, Eileen Prince, is Elinor Prince, which is closer to the Norwegian spelling of Prince, which was better for the reveal of Snape being the half-blood prince, partly named after his mother. Cedric Diggory is Frederick Jervel, which is an old word for brave. Lee Jordan is Laffenstyx. Laffen is an old nickname for Olaf and Olav, so, you know, Laffen. Not sure if Styx is from the band or the river though. Dean Thomas is Tommy Ding, which seems like Høverstad just picked names that sounded similar and then flipped them around. Oliver Wood is Oliver Quist, with Quist being the Norwegian word for a stick or twig. Grip hook is Klotak, which means claw grip. Creature is Krynkel, a portmanteau of creep and inkly. Creep can be translated as creep, but often means something closer to creepy crawlies, and inkly simply means pitiful. Peeves is Gnav. Gnav is a traditional Danish and Norwegian social game that has been played with either special cards or wooden pieces with similar motifs. One of the pieces is the Fool, or Narren in Norwegian, and that's the roundabout connection to the character of Peeves. Bellatrix Lestrange is called Demons in Norwegian. The letters in Demons spell out the English word demons, but the Norwegian word for demons is demoner. Peter Pettigrew is Petter Pittelpytt. Pittel either referring to the word pitle, meaning to walk with tiny short steps, as a rat would, or to the word pitteliten, which is a dialectal version of bitteliten, which means tiny. Pit, on the other hand, is an interjection meant to convey indifference, and is possibly onomatopoeia for a spitting sound. His rat name, Scabbers, is as good as directly translated to Scorpus, which was also the name of a famous charioteer in Roman times. Rita Skeeter is Rita Slita, and while Slita is a variation on the word slita, meaning either to struggle or to wear out, the name is probably in reference to the word slitsom, meaning tiring. Daphne Greengrass is Daphnia Grönbeck. One of the intricacies of the Norwegian language is that we have two official written languages, Bokmål, which I'll translate to book speech, and Nynorsk, Nynorsk, meaning New Norwegian. I may get into the interesting history behind that another time, but I'm bringing it up now because grøn, with that spelling, means green in New Norwegian, but the almost 90% of Norwegians who write in book speech would spell it with 2 N's. Bek is pitch, the byproduct of tar distillation, or possibly beck with 2 K's, meaning a stream. Fenrir greyback is Fenris vargar. The Fenris wolf, or the Fenrir wolf in English for some reason, is a giant world-ending wolf from Norse mythology, and one of Loki's children. Vargar means wolves in New Norwegian, and the same in book speech, except it's varger, and the word ulver is much more commonly used. Newt Scamander is salamander fisle. Salamander means the same in both languages, and is what both Newt and Scamander refers to anyway. But fisle comes from the Norwegian word firfirsle, which means lizard. So his full name is Salamander Lizard. Dolores Jane Umbridge is Wenche Dolorosa Uffert. Uff is an onomatopoeia used to express dismay. It is well known by Scandinavian Americans in the US as part of the phrase ufta, which means uften. It could be said that someone who says uff a lot is an uffert. I was originally pretty confused as to how Sybil Trelawney became Rakel Rummelfjoll, but a few comments on the full Norwegian Harry Potter names video helped me figure it out. Rakel, while also a real name, is in reference to the word orakel, meaning oracle. Rummel probably comes from the Norwegian saying tomme tønner rumler mest, or empty barrels rumbles the most, which means that people who knows little talks a lot, which fits her character quite well. Fjoll could either be in reference to the word fjols, meaning fool, or a Scottish dialectal word that relates to the Norwegian word fjell, meaning mountain. Or it could possibly be in reference to both these words, as an added reference to one of the most popular Norwegian films of all time, Fjols til fjells, which means Fools in the Mountains, from 1957. Gudrik Griffing simply dropped the door ending after the Norwegian word for griffin, simply griff, and replaced it with a more Norwegian ing ending. His first name is also spelled more Norwegian. Hufflepuff is håsblås. Hås is a variation of the more common hes, which is the Norwegian word for being hoarse. And blås is to blow, so håsblås means to blow hoarsely. While Rasla Ravnklo's last name is a direct translation from Ravenclaw. Rasla means to rustle, as in leaves or paper, perhaps referencing the Ravenclaw's predisposition for book smarts. Slytherin is named Smygar, after Smygar, which is either the word for someone who sneaks, or for a soundless fart. And finally, Hogwarts is directly translated to Galtvort. The full video has a lot more interesting and funny translations, so if you enjoyed this video, you should definitely go check that one out as well. Until then, like, comment, share, subscribe, check out my Patreon, and have a lovely day. See ya!